a lot has been said yesterday and today about, yes, rankings, university recognition, branding, etc., etc. I just want to run a very brief, it's not a summary as such, but just some ideas to share that you guys can use in your work and how you can also use QS in order to help you do a better work. Now, yes, most of you, and well, all of you know QS as the ranking agency, but we were originally created as a publishing house and the fair organizers. So when the founder, Quacquarelli, who Lee mentioned earlier today, was doing his MBA at Wharton, he started producing a magazine for the, not kids, young professionals, top MBA career guides, how to identify a program which is right for you, how to apply for scholarships, what's these essays, etc., etc. Then we've added the fairs, and then relatively recently in QS history, just about 15 years ago, then we've started with the rankings. But QS expertise is much wider than just the rankings. And before I got this, developed a hobby of university and rankings, I've been working as a marketing director at QS for events. So anything and everything related to B2C marketing and recruitment. What we're going to look for now is going to be just a very brief, overview of what we have with the universities these days and what universities can do maybe better. This looks familiar, right? Lee had this saying, this is our audience. I think it's your audience as well, because those are the stakeholders that you have to deal with every day. And yes, quite often we tend to focus on just students or just international partners, leaving the rest behind. I mean, we can't ignore our lovely government and state officials. They won't let us, but the rest comes secondary. And Iiro has mentioned that alumni, for example, quite often are almost unknown to universities. And personally, I can't say that I've met that many great alumni associations anywhere in Eastern Europe or Central Asia for this matter. This is something that we definitely can learn from our counterparts, not just actually universities in Western Europe or North America or Australia, and those are free destinations which are doing great when it comes down to capitalizing on alums. But I'd say look at the business schools. They are even better. And I'll give a couple of examples later on. Now, today, all of us have lots of different channels that we have to deal with. And I don't know how about you, I personally sometimes struggle with this online exhibitionism when I have someone chasing me on Twitter and then messaging me on WhatsApp that, oh, I've sent you an email, can you please check? And then asking on Facebook, are you ready to reply? No, I'm not. I've got my emails, I've got my Facebook, and let's stick to this. Young people are different. They're like Shivas with 8 hands, and they're able to, process information from lots of different channels, which puts pressure on you guys, because it means that your websites and your online presence is not just one place or one entry point. These are lots and lots of different channels that you have to maintain and manage, and also depending on the geo-targeting, who you want to approach, who you want to reach out, you have to slightly tweak the message. Say, for example, if you were to establish your recognition in Uzbekistan, no, I think the colleagues left. Yeah, so in Uzbekistan, for example, nobody answers emails. They don't really care much about Facebook. I had to install Telegram just because of Uzbekistan. You can send as many emails as you wish to the university, to the ministry, to the deputy prime minister. He will only answer on Twitter. On Twitter, oh, sorry, not Twitter. What's this? Telegram. He answers like within literally 5 minutes. Emails, nah. So cultural differences, yes, bearing this in mind. Now, these are just some of QS partners that we work with on very different matters. We supply them with articles, with statistics, with comments and quotes. And if you want to be in kind of on our radar for comments, feedback, questions, information from your researchers or rectors, you have to let us know. And not just in a formal way, oh, here is an email from of my rector, and if you have any questions, email. Let us know what are you good at and what kind of expert will be, competent and fast, and in English, ideally, able to communicate, not just with us, but with those chaps. We're not a promotional agency as such. We don't give you a fish, we'd rather give you a stick, we'd rather put you in touch directly with the journalists and you deal with them on your own than, serving as a mediator. Now, a little bit of, patting on the shoulder. This is the ranking of the rankers. Alexa monitors traffic to the whole of internet and then says this is the website on such and such place, again across the whole internet. So out of millions and millions of websites and web pages, QS comes within top 5,000 most popular resources, which is fantastic because if you think about all the news, sports, entertainment, you name it, being within 5,000 in the whole internet is pretty cool. And you can see our competitors, they're doing a good job, but we're doing better. And what's important, editorial materials on topuniversities.com are absolutely free. And I've mentioned this word already during my sessions, fantastic word, halyava, everything that you can get for free. That's what you should use if you have a chance. Saving budgets, come on, we all have struggles with this. Now, just a general overview, what kind of channels and voices, if you want, you have to bear in mind while working on your external communication. Not just external, but internal as well. We're talking about mainly B2B and B2C here. And I'd say that for young generation, the most impactful one is word of mouth. Recommendations, peer recommendations. How many of you have students who came to your university not because you have a great website or you are #1 in your country in whatever ranking? They came because their parents graduated or because their friend is coming to your university or because an employer that he's interested in published an article saying, oh, we recruit from such and such university. And it's not always up to you, but at least you can help direct this channel of word of mouth recommendation by working with your alums again. Ruden is one of the universities that does a great job with alumni, not just the alumni actually. When they have, at the beginning of the long holidays, on the summer break, they bring together all the international students in one room. They have like half an hour, I think, half an hour, 40 minutes brief when they tell these international kids, this is our news, that's what's happening at the university, these are the programs we're very proud of, and when they leave, here is a goodie bag with a couple of Ruden posters, caps, stickers, magnets, whatever. So when those kids go home, whether it's within Russia or outside Russia, they serve as ambassadors, as university promoters. And I think this is a great way because, again, word of mouth is very impactful. And if you combine this not with just your, formal interviews or any sort of brochures, but very short videos with those kids, whether they came just for the summer schools, whether they are studying, this is something that, again, easy to produce, but with a very high impact. Now, every year we run student survey, international student survey around the world. And if, this is our global, this is the result of the global survey. If we were to ask students to produce a university ranking, those are the indicators that will be important for them. So not so much academic input in terms of research output or whatever, but experiences. Yes, scholarships are important. 55% falls on scholarships just because we all want to save money for something more exciting than studies. But look, teaching. Teaching is important for kids, but how do you measure teaching? You can't really say our teachers are the best or our classes are the most exciting unless you prove some proof. And the proof comes not just from the exit polls. When the students finish their courses, they provide some feedback to this or that lecturer. But again, comments, individual interviews. I think it was Imperial College who a couple of years ago on their website, they had something that I still think is one of the best solutions. They had an image of different international kids, and when you hover over with your mouse over this image, a little pop-up window comes up saying this is John Smith from I don't know, from Canada, doing Bachelor of Science in radio electronics. And when you click on this kid, his profile and then his interviews and regular blog contributions appear, and you can read and you can get inspired. And when we were analyzing, there was like a heat map created for the Imperial College. That was one of the most popular destinations on the homepage where the users would go. So they don't care much about your labs, about your campuses, new programs. They want to hear from the real students. So this is something that universities have to bear in mind while working on external communication and the website. Of course, working with parents and career advisors is important. This is more just like for your information, because again, currently universities have so much data to deal with that sometimes the basic one gets lost. And I know that some of the Indian and Chinese probably even better than Indian universities have materials developed for parents, not for the future students, not for the kids, but brochures for the parents. I don't think it will work in Europe, maybe only on some very subtle and soft level. But if you are dealing with those markets where parents are the decision makers, that's something to bear in mind, that you have to tailor your offerings to them rather than for the bachelor, probably, not so much for the masters. Now, a small quiz. So those are the results of our survey of international students. What do you think young kids care about when they choose a university? Do you think they would prefer a university with a high graded employment rate or high student satisfaction score? So who thinks it's going to be A? Could you please raise your hands? Okay, who thinks it's going to be B? Very practical, very practical kids these days. Yes, experience is important. However, almost 62%, what is it that I'm getting out? Who are your employers? What is my career going to be like? And now, bearing this in mind, think about your own website. Do you have a section, a clear, visible, easy to access section that talks about career outcomes? I bet in most cases the answer will be no. And it's really easy because you have those employers coming on campus, running info sessions, having career days, etc. Just have one page where you don't have to put much statistics, just even logos, just put the logos, recognize logos of your employers. Of course, if you can have a pie showing, for example, 27% of our graduates last year went into, I don't know, FMCG, 17% went into retail, etc., that will be wonderful. But if you don't have resources to do so, at least start with the clear message. These are our employers. These are the companies that you might join if you come to our university. Now, highlighting the strengths, the importance of subject focus. There was a very good question today, why do you produce so many rankings? The results are different, it's confusing, etc. I stand by our approach, and especially when it comes down to subject rankings. Subject rankings become increasingly more important for the students, and yes, QS does lots of stuff for universities, but it's the student who is the main stakeholder for us. So you can see that everywhere around the world, subject rankings are far more important than the generic one. Do you highlight this on your homepage? Do you actually, when you plan your campaigns, your communication materials, are you highlighting three strongest subject areas? Or you just say, we have 27 master's degree, we have 38 bachelor degrees, and 17, I don't know, summer schools. So think about how much time the potential student will spend studying your information. You have to be really quick. It's like an attention span of a goldfish, right? Well, hopefully the memory will be better, but at least for those 2 minutes that the person will have on your website, you have to impress and catch him or her. Again, this is some data from the applicant survey, just highlighting the differences in perception what's important for European students and what's important for Chinese students. And it's interesting that when we're talking about quality of education, there's quite a black box, really, because it's hard to assess quality of education in just 1, 2, or 3 indicators. India, China put lots of focus on it. But what we've discovered when we asked students, so how do you define quality? It was funny, they were saying, well, if it's difficult to study there, it's good. It means it's a good quality education. So, and now we have to balance it somehow, saying that it's hard to study at our programs, but you don't want to have a very high dropout rate after the first session, after the first exam round, right? But you also want to highlight that it's not a very laid-back study process. So thinking what is it at your university that you're offering that can serve as a measure, whether it's high GPA or whether it's high GRE if you're asking for it at the entry level or at the exit level, those are the indicators for those particular markets. Again, if you look at Europe, for example, for European students, it's employment perspective that's most important. So that's for the students. And okay, so those are some publications of QS. Again, there are, of course, if you ask my colleagues from the sales department, they will be more than happy to offer you advertising and banners and bookmarks and etc., etc. Close your ears, Jacques, please, not to share with the teams. Editorial materials, if it's a good story, we'll publish it. But as mentioned yesterday during the session with Stephen and Rachel, don't send us pages and pages. We don't read them. I don't have time for this, especially if you send it to me in Russian. Sorry. 5, 6 sentences, like a teaser, why you think this is a good story, why you think it will resonate well with our audience, and our audience is very international. And then we might consider it, discuss it with the editors, and they will get in touch with you for more information. Now, on QS, we also have a section called Knowledge Library, where we publish lots of white papers and research. So whenever you have, I don't know, a website revamp on cards, there is a report saying search engine optimization for the university websites. If you plan to visit India with your master courses and want to recruit more students, there is a brochure saying what's important for our students in India. So all sorts of data is available there. And actually, talking about the International Students Survey, the results of which I was shown on the previous slide, if you have more than 200, well, closer to 300 contact details of students outside of your home country who've approached your university, who were curious about your progress, but never came to be a student, we are happy to run this international student survey. So we're interested in kids who were interested in your studies but didn't come. So we can send them a questionnaire, study the answers, and then we will produce a report for you talking about students' behavior, or rather candidates' behavior, for free. Noted, right? So talking about QS Online, again, where all the universities have basic profiles for free. Sorry for repeating myself, but I think it's important. And it's also sad when I see basic profiles where universities can update the data in 3 sections: university overview, undergraduate programs, and postgraduate programs. And universities just don't bother. They just put, copy-paste the same information, doesn't excite anyone, and kids don't get interested in your progress. Last year, we had over 70 million visits across all our websites. For top universities, we had something like 63 million. This is a pretty good statistics. This is a very good visibility, so please use it. Use it to your advantage. Now, highlighting the importance of subject rankings, here is the traffic to different sections of our website. So you can see over 22 million in traffic to subject ranking section. Global rankings, yes, it's important, but look at the gap. Eurasian rankings, ECA, this is the data again from the last year. This year, I believe it will be even higher because we have more universities, better campaigns, etc., etc. Still pretty good. I would say for any university which is interested in recruiting more international students and having a better visibility on the global arena, if you're ready to accept them, because that's also another problem. Sometimes universities start a campaign and then they discover they don't have enough dormitories for international students. So when you're ready to activate your international visibility, make sure you plan your campaigns, but never plan just a banner campaign. It should always coincide with content, with inspirational stories, and ideally, as we could see on the previous graph, you see the traffic? These are ranking publications. So subject rankings come out usually end of February, early March. World University Rankings is always published early June, and our regional rankings come out mid-October. So ideally, you want your interviews, your stories being published on our website a couple of weeks or a week prior to the ranking so that you make the most of the traffic. Okay, so we've seen this one. Again, I'm not going to dwell on this. You will get all our materials by the end of this week. So, here are just some examples of the stories that we produce. And this one is one of my favorite ones. It's a graduate from MIPT, Fistech in Russia, who ended up working as a data scientist at the Liverpool Football Club. Well, who doesn't love football? Well, okay, there are some people who don't care about football. But usually, football, Liverpool, data scientists, 3 magic words. That was one of the most popular articles on our website for about a month, which is pretty good, bearing in mind the traffic and the number of articles we produce. We don't really have much about Estonia. We don't really have anything about Lithuania. I don't think I've checked for Latvia, sorry. But these are the examples. Like, this is a university profile which can be updated. You manage your profile. All you have to do is just send me an email. We'll produce you a login, password, instructions. Off you go. You manage your profile. You can update it almost like every day if you wish. And this is also an example of a regular contributor, a faculty member who used to work, I think he's still working at Columbia University, but he was also a visiting professor at one of the Kazakh universities. Every quarter he would produce a piece about something, how they went to Brasilia with his students on Rio 2020, or how they were organizing summer schools or cheap travel destinations in Central Asia. Articles of different interest. Some articles were declined because they were too promotional, so we wouldn't take them because, again, this is free editorial placement. Some articles were good and they were published, and he helped generating traffic to his university, which resulted in his institution getting 2.5 times more traffic than his nearest competitor in the country. Now, this is a quote from a friend of mine who is from Romania working as a journalist in Canada. I sometimes run trainings for the universities on media relations and marketing. So those are some of the, it's literally an ideal summary, what you have to bear in mind if you're getting ready to talk to the journalist. And it doesn't matter whether it's a person from the marketing division or it's a faculty member. Anyone can be the face and the voice of a university, but it is in your interest to make sure that this person is properly trained and well educated about what's happening in the university and what's important for the university. Yeah, websites. That's something which is a point of pain, if I may say. It's very rare when I come across not even a great, but let alone good university website. It's still a long way to go for most of the universities in the region. I must say Baltic institutions are doing it much better than, say, Russian or Central Asian universities. But in general, most of our websites still look like, a report to the ministry or something that we have to put there, not necessarily bearing in mind the interest of the user, of the student. So at some point, yes, I believe our intentions and design will coincide with what the user wants to see, but that's still a long way to go. And also, one of the things that is worth mentioning here, be present. Quite often, journalists and us feel that it's very difficult to get anything out of a university because there is no press office on the website, there is no media contact, and you don't want to go to marketing people because they have usually graduate marketing focus rather than general promotion. So it's just some general things to bear, like hygienic factors in a way. And yeah, this is an element from my media training for the universities. I think UCL is fantastic. This is an example. I think this is almost perfect in terms of what universities have to have on their website for the media, for the journal. Of course, if you're ready for that. If it's empty, rather don't do anything. But without just dwelling on this, check on the UCL website what's included in each of the sections, and you'll see that it's all about making journalists' life easier. And that's what we all want. Otherwise, they won't come to us. Otherwise, they won't, use us next time they want to publish an article. And yeah, Rachel was talking about this yesterday. Personal touch is important. Whenever there is a journalist from an international media or local media in your city, bring them to your camp, bring them on campus, show them your facilities, meet the faculty members. It's so helpful. Our editors at top universities have never traveled until spring last year, which is fine. It sounds a bit silly, but they were so, focused on writing, they never actually participated in our events. And well, guess what was the first country they went to? It was Russia. And since then, I think we doubled the number of referrals to Russia in our materials, just because the journalists felt that, they got engaged with the country and with the universities. Right, so that's again about a summary of what you can get. Basic profiles, again, please, please, please update them. Candidates actually do use them and do come there. Now, this is something that it's worth another 3-hour discussion, how you can capitalize on your alums. There are so many things you can do, but one thing to remember, you start thinking about capitalizing your alums not when they graduate, but the moment they accept your offer and the moment they become your students. Because if you don't build this loyalty while they're on campus, it won't work. It simply won't fly. And yeah, talking about practicalities, Chicago booth, in my humble opinion, has the best page for alumni relations. This is an entry point, resources for alums. On top menu on the website, it's called resources for alums. Straightforward, easy, simple. Maybe not everything is possible in our universities yet. We can't produce life-learn emails for all the students and all the alums, even though if you think about it, when do we get the highest volume of the students and connection? Not at school really, but at the universities. And if your students can keep and retain the university email throughout their careers, this also is a great promotion for you, right? Because everybody who they will be in touch with will see your email there. Things that you can do are pretty straightforward. Again, photo library. You can have like a gallery of pictures that are important for your students, like the famous, I don't know, statue where everybody touches a dog's nose before exams, or the famous fountain where everybody sets up the first day. Things like that, they can be presented as screensavers, they can be presented as whatever, so that people can easily download them. Or business cards. And this is also an important element which we often forget about. Like, in American universities, they have these rings, right? Where if you're a graduate, you're sometimes recognized by the ring. Or pins, we have pins in our region more. But also a university logo on a business card showing that I'm a graduate of this institution. It helps. It's just one of the things that I came across, and I was surprised how proud those people, and they were like bankers, consultants, etc., but they had their Chicago logo on the business card. Lots of other things. Again, explore Chicago website. They are wonderful. And yes, and this is to continue Ira's story about promoting country. I wish we had study in Estonia, well, study in Kazakhstan, study in Kyrgyzstan, study in Russia. We have study in Russia, but I think it's pretty rubbish. There are countries and there are cities in the world who do appreciate and understand the value of using not just, university power, but other USPs. Like if you take Kyoto, for example, education generates, I think now it's like the fourth or third, like in Australia, most important revenue generator for the city. Not just because, yes, Kyoto, wonderful old capital, Sakura and all this stuff, but people love coming there for executive education, for short courses, for summer schools, for winter schools, you name it. So pretty much all local universities, apart from the long degree granting courses, also have short courses, short trainings, which are very popular among international, not just students, but also business professionals or even elderly people. And I bet each one of you can think of at least 1, 2, 3 solutions like this in your own cities, if your cities and countries are promoted, right? If people know that there is a good reason to come to this city, to come to this country. Now, on top universities, we also have a section which is called country guides. Those materials are produced by our journalists. Please come explore them. If you would like us to add something, if you want us to develop this section, like study in Estonia, study in Kyrgyzstan, in Mongolia, whatever, email and we'll be happy to update this report, pages. And also just to wrap up, I can see Jacques will be waving at me very soon, showcasing your global partnerships. This is something that is, again, very easy to do, but pretty much none of the institutions present here do. The best you can get, so for example, we have an international conference and there is a representative of a different university in the audience. He got interested in what the other speaker was talking about and he wants to check his or her university and to see how internationally engaged this institution is. The best you could get is just the list of countries or the list of universities that you collaborate with, and most probably it will be just memorandums signed. Now, there are plenty of very easy solutions for universities when you can just add this, движок, just a feature on your website, which will demonstrate. You can search, there you can see a search. You can search by short programs, student exchange programs, research activities, etc. And then you get a map with such activities and you can click on each name of the institution and see and explore more. So easy, and technically it's not a big deal, believe me. Again, somehow we keep forgetting about this element. And finally, to finish off on branding topic, I've mentioned yesterday, I will repeat once again, when you participate in the events, if it is possible, please apply well in advance and come as a speaker rather than as just a listener, because there is no better way to tell the world about your university than actually share your success stories, or maybe it's not success stories, maybe it's some failures that you learned from, but at least you're talking to the audience and people will come to you afterwards asking about whatever they might be excited about. We have this event, it's an annual event in December. The first time we bring it to Europe, it used to be in the US only. It's all about technology in education. Lots of different categories. Not just this year, it's actually not just about technology and education, but general learning experience, studying experience, including things like, research promotion. And I would like to use this opportunity to show a book which has been very popular within my family. It's a comic book about science discoveries. 13 discoveries about science and scientists. Kids love it. If you have a kid between, I would say, 7 and maybe 13, 14, this is one of the ways to engage with them. And Skoltech produced it last year, and I keep my fingers crossed that they will win one of the categories here in university science promotion, but we'll see, yes, and the event that I think is the best in terms of content, the quality of content that we produce is EDU data science, using big data in strategic university management. 1 year it takes place in Europe, London, another year it takes place in the US, next year we're in New York. It's not sold out yet. No, it was Apple which is sold. So you can still register and you can have a look at the previous agenda and come on, submit some proposals. Tell us about your case studies. However, please bear in mind that if today and yesterday we were talking on a relatively laid-back, relaxed kind of environment, this is a far more competitive, this is a very kind of serious selection process. So come forward when you have a really interesting case to share. So some other events. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Just one thing to bear in mind, it's not really in universities' culture to praise ourselves, right? Our culture is, yes, we know we're doing great things, but we leave it for others to praise us. It doesn't work like this. The world is becoming so competitive that if you don't tell the world about your successes, nobody else will. So be realistic, tell the world about your successes, and please communicate with us. Communicate with us actively, properly, and in English. Thank you very much.